Well, now, so I wanted to talk to both of you, at least separately, but and since I got both of you and you're both drone experts, you both have a Hero 3, or not, excuse me, a Phantom 3, right?
Yeah.
And then Michael, you just recently got a Mavic Pro like I have.
Yep, got the Mavic Pro.
Yeah. And you got it in a little bitty bag like I do.
Yeah, this is actually an old camera bag that I've had for about literally 20 years. That maybe I put some GoPros in it, and now the Mavic fits perfect inside this thing. The Mavic itself is down in there, but oh yeah, it's perfect. And actually, believe it or not, the charger will fit on the outside bag here.
Yeah. I've got every bit of mine in a little bitty lunch bag now.
I saw that.
Chris, you remember the old bags that Robert Eckerd gave us there one year? They're about this big, and
I do.
I got my whole Mavic and it fit perfectly in there. It's so sweet.
Well, guys, I'm looking at either a Phantom 4 or a Mavic. So you should tell me, really, first off, why did you choose the Mavic?
Michael, you talk first.
For me, I've got, like I said, I got 3 kids. I run my own company, and I have a full-time job. So literally, my Phantom 3 just sat in my kitchen in a suitcase, and I never took it anywhere just because I always had kids in the car. I'm always on the go. Literally, the Mavic, everywhere I go, I put it on my little gear shifter. It hangs down right beside my legs in the car, and I always have it with me. And that, for me, is the main reason. Because for me, it's just all running and gunning. It's YouTube. I don't do anything professional with it.
Right.
I deal with some realtors and stuff, so I've done some house shots and stuff, but nothing major. And I really don't plan on it. Don't really want to, but
well,
I love it.
One of the reasons I want to get you two guys together is, Michael, you're sort of a hybrid of what Chris and I are. I'm totally a hobbyist at this point. Chris is a professional. Chris is licensed as a commercial drone user. He's newly licensed, but he's been in the game for a little while. And Michael, tell Chris how you think the video stacks up from the Hero 3 to the Mavic.
You know what? I mean, to be honest with you, I actually give the Phantom 3 and the Phantom 4 Pro that just came out. I mean, it almost makes me want to go to the professional level, because that thing is very sweet. But the Mavic, I think, I've seen a little bit of a shutter in the footage sometimes, and for some reason, every time you get it in the sun, it will get some major glare on it.
Yes, it does.
Where it almost, people actually mention, like, you need to take that clear dome off, and I never fly with a dome.
Yeah.
The Phantom 3 actually has a better picture, and then that Phantom 4 Pro that just came out, I mean, I am blown away by that. So for me, I mean, if I were to go to the commercial level, professional level, Phantom 4 Pro is hands down. And even probably the Phantom 3 edges it out just by a little bit.
Yeah.
To a guy that drinks boxed wine and could care less about the fancy stuff. So.
Well, Chris, tell me, have you ever had any problem with glare and everything from the sun? I mean, I do get weird anomalies, but if you've flown it a lot too, the Phantom 3, is that less impervious to it or what?
Not really. I mean, it's like everything else. If you're flying into the sun, and typically that's the only time I've got any glare issues at all, is when I would have them with any camera. But other than that, no, I've not really seen any ghosting or artifacting or any type of anomaly that I can think of. I mean, I'm really pleased with my Phantom, and that's why I'm thinking about staying in the family and doing the Phantom 4 with my next purchase. But again, I like the compact nature of the Mavic, being able to load it. That's pretty tempting. So you guys have got me thinking about the Mavic as well, although I know they're on back order right now.
I don't know how you got yours, Tony, but I just got lucky. The day they went to pre-order, it was available for pre-order. I mean, I was up that night, hit pre-order, emailed. I think they were supposed to be shipping on October 14th. I forget what the actual date was, but I emailed DJI, and they actually responded, said, hey, we're actually starting to ship these. and you're on the list. So I don't know if my email had anything to do with it, and it's been video gold, and I'm enjoying my 15 minutes of fame with the Mavic series because it's been crazy.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of views. I mean, I've been going there and looking, and you're getting a ton of views, Michael.
I mean, yeah, I just posted one last night about the crash I had. I mean, that one's 10,000, and that's been 24 hours.
Wow. I'll check it out. I haven't seen any of those, Michael. I'll check those out for sure.
Yeah, he's getting famous on there, Chris. He's becoming the Mavic guy like I was the GoPro guy for a while. You know, really.
Oh my goodness, yeah, it's really been crazy. I think those generated when I got the Mavic on at the end of October. I had 1,500 subscribers, and right now 100 times about 50, 60 every day.
Wow,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
wow.
I went to Social Blade and checked Michael out. Michael, I don't know if you ever go check yourself out on Social Blade to see how you rank, but you've really climbed in the rankings, and I'm jealous.
Well, like I say, I'm enjoying it while it lasts, and it's so funny because I've got other content I want to post, but I'm so paranoid about breaking that because every video I post has DJI Mavic Pro, and then like the next one I'm going to do tonight will probably be with gestures, Mavic Pro gestures, and it's like I just don't want to break it. I don't want to throw any Phantom 3 videos up in the way. I don't want to put any Hero 4 videos up in the way to break that. Yeah, it's weird because they're putting me in, they're featuring me somehow, and I don't know why, but I'll take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, be like a surfer and ride that wave, my friend.
Ride the wave, absolutely. I'm like you, Chuck. I post everything from cooking videos to just about anything, and now I'm going to be really depressed when I actually post some normal stuff, and then I start losing subscribers. What's going on?
Yeah, my stuff that means something to me gets no views, and the stuff that I guess all what it is really is people just using YouTube to get information. They go in there for reviews. They go in there to learn. Chris, Matt, that's one reason I got Chris on here. He did a video the other night that he admittedly I came at him with a lot of questions fast. He didn't have time to prepare for it, but it was about how did he get his drone license. And so if you're cool, Michael, I want to ask Chris to talk for a little bit. Chris, now you have your thoughts together, really, because I'm sure me and Michael both are interested in this. Give us again your synopsis of how you went about learning what you had to do, and then what you had to do to get that commercial license.
Okay, sure. Well, I obviously had an interest in it since we're doing, a lot of work in the studio and a lot of, different avenues in the marketing field. And so, just started doing a lot of research on what it was going to take and found a couple of really good sites. And one, and I unfortunately can't recall the name of it right off the top of my head. I could find it to you, give it to you later, and you can add it in the comments. But it really gave you just a summary of a lot of potential tests. And of course, these tests weren't real tests because leading up into the first day of I think it's called Part 107 licensing procedure or certificate procedure, no one knew what was going to be on the test. So they were kind of guessing based on what had been there on some of the sample tests the FAA had put out, and also some parts from the pilots testing. So anyway, going over those and really just looking at that test material and going over it over and over and over, reading a lot of on it, and you kind of immersing yourself over the period of about 3 or 4 weeks, pretty hardcore, because I really just want to go out there and do okay on it right away. So a lot of studying, a lot of practice tests. Probably took the practice test. I mean, literally, I can't tell you how many times, but certainly in the dozens, over and over and over again, just to see how we could do. Got to the day of the test, and a lot of the questions were pretty similar, although there were a few that were completely different. And but even they were very similar to the same material. So I think if you do your homework, and immerse yourself in it, it's something that certainly you can tackle pretty comfortably. The test was at near a local airport at one of the facilities that does pilot training. And again, I would emphasize you're not a pilot. You have a remote pilot certificate. you're a remote pilot, I think, or remote airman, it's called, on your actual card that comes from the FAA. So, it was a great process, and I love having that, access to be able to be able to do that type of work now. And also, there's a few things that you can do a little bit more. Gives you a little bit more leeway than the recreational pilot as well. So that's something that's pretty good. But you learn a lot, and you learn about the importance of safety, and how when you see a lot of these things happening with people, flying their drones too high, and really sort of breaking the rules that are out there, and really kind of endangering themselves and others, it makes you really understand that. I think that's probably the most important thing, is to understand, why safety is so important, when you're operating a drone.
Because here I won't give Michael a chance to ask some questions too, but here's one of the things. The last time we talked about airspace,
Right.
and you had told me about the fact you could go and get those charts. The what did you call them again?
It's a sectional chart.
Sectional
I'm going to just I'll minimize you real quick if it'll let me do that. It may not, but if you'll do a Google search for a sectional chart over whatever area you're at that has an airport nearby, if you'll do that search, you'll get a couple links to it, and you'll see what the sectional chart looks like. And I'm sure we could probably put that on the screen maybe sometime during this conversation. But a sectional chart gives you literally the layout of the land across the country, really across the world. The one we're interested in, of course, is across the country. And it'll show you the location of airports, of restricted airspace, of all the things that have to do with flying. And, of course, that little part of that flying world is the drone world. And so it helps you know where you can and can't be, and it's really the authority on what you should and shouldn't be doing, and really serves a good guide for that.
I went, and this is kind of cool, Michael. If you've not pulled these down yet, you have to go look. You'll be in the Atlanta one, because I went and found out where they were. I did, it's my Google homework there, and I found where they are, and so I looked. I said, well, man, it's only got like 40 different things for the whole United States, or maybe it was 30 or something. I don't know. It was way less than I thought. And so I downloaded Charlotte, and I found out that Charlotte goes all the way from like Morganton, Chris, all the way over to the Outer Banks. And I'm going, holy crap! And so I downloaded I downloaded the PDF, and then I downloaded the TIFF. And the TIFF version is way better quality. So it's like, gosh, it was like 60 some meg TIFF, but I've been looking at them, and I don't know what the crap they mean. So, but I knew they were important based on what you'd said. So then I said, well, I want to go west of Morganton, like over into the mountains. And it said that Atlanta was the one that joined in with it. So I downloaded Atlanta, and then I said, well, what if I want to go up into Virginia or something? So the one for Virginia is Cincinnati. So I got Charlotte, Cincinnati, and Atlanta, and I guess it's got anything I would shoot covered, But I have no clue how to read those things. So maybe a good thing for you to do, Chris, would be do a video at some point on how to read these sectional charts for just Joe Blow schmucks like us, so we know that we're not doing something stupid.
Well, I can certainly help you walk it through it. I'm no expert on either. It's a new thing to me relatively in the past few months. But it's, once you get the hang of it, a lot of it is pretty intuitive. There's certainly some parts that are still, a mystery even to me as I'm trying to figure these things out. But one thing I would look for, too, is there's an online version of the sectional chart. So you don't really have to download it. I want to say it's vfar.com. I may be giving you the wrong address, but it literally will allow you to scroll like Google Earth throughout the whole country and look at the charts.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And that's a really easy one to get in and to look at. And I'll send you both the link for it. But it's, again, the big thing about it is, and one thing people don't know as well is, you've got the different types of airspace and of course airports. Well, Charlotte's one of the biggest in the country, so it's going to be what's, if I'm not mistaken, Class B airspace. And there's not a lot of airports with that designation. Again, I think as I said in the last video, in the study guide, they help you remember B. It's B is big. And so they're one of the bigger ones around. And so you've got some pretty extensive airspace that's highly regulated. And, you don't want to be anywhere near that airspace without, again, knowing what you're doing. And in this case, of course, contacting the correct authorities to make them aware of what you're doing. But, it's an interesting thing. And once you kind of get into it, you can see that A lot of the airspace we're in, though, is Class G, which is a lot easier to fly in up to 400 feet, which is our limit, of course. It's maybe controlled up to 700 feet. So and then it would start maybe either E or another airspace. So once you kind of get that idea of how that airspace works, it makes it a lot easier to be comfortable in where you're flying.
So go ahead, Michael.
I get a lot of warnings on the DJI app on Class C airspace. And I can't remember if it's Class D or Class C, but one of them gives you a warning, and then the other one actually makes you go in and tap on there that you accept that you have contacted the proper authorities, which right. I have a contact at the Chattanooga airport, like Readout soccer field where my kids play soccer, of the Chattanooga airport. And it's so funny because I talked to David down there, and he goes, man, honestly, guys like you, if you're keeping it within 100 feet and you're at the recreational field, problems on my plate if I'm worried about an airplane being down that low. He goes, you're almost wasting our time by even calling, but understand, the airspaces, if they do call and let us know, but they pretty much grant that permission pretty easily. It's funny because basically they just want to know that you are flying in that area, mm-hmm. and then they want you to call them when you get done. That way, if there were if there were an emergency or low flying plane, I guess they could notify them. I don't know. But yeah, Class C, I can't remember which it is, Class C or Class D. One of them just gives you a warning and says to be careful, and the other one says that you have to acknowledge. But another website that I use pretty good, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's called Before You Fly.
Yep.
That one, it will actually let you know what restricted airspaces you're in. It's pretty cool. I use that quite frequently.
Yeah.
And that's really the key, I think, Michael, for everyone. If they're following the rules and not only the FAA regulations, but there's some community guidelines out there that have been established from some organizations that are entrenched in flying of all kinds. And so I think following those guidelines is the key. It differs. I mean, it can be at ground level. It can be at 700 feet. It just depends on what the classification is. They call it, they say it's like an inverted wedding cake, that it may go to the ground here and then just keep tearing up. So that's something that's pretty important is to, again, do what you're doing there and just, you're thinking of safety first. And I think that's what will help, give drone pilots a better name and show a lot of responsibility.
The one area that I have a problem with is, I'm going to tell myself, man, is line of sight. That is so tough.
It's a biggie.
And let me explain. My theory on that is I think it's some old regulation. And again, there's no excuse for breaking the law. I get it, but I think it's old regulation. Before you have the sophisticated navigation, the real-time flight telemetry, all the data that you're getting. Obviously, with no GPS, you fly a drone out of sight. Huge hazard, but outside of that, with the technology that you have today, I mean, that one's a tough one for me. I kind of look at it as owning a sweet new Corvette, and you got a nice stretch of interstate. You're going to open it up every now and then, But I'm not going to drag race through school. I'm not going to drag race through school zones. That would be totally irresponsible. I don't know. That's my take.
I'll give you. I'll go ahead and do my little bit here. So today. Okay, I'd had my drone out, I think, Michael, only 26, maybe 2,800 feet is as far as I've had it. And, of course, you lose sight of it, honestly, after about 1,200 feet. Yeah, about 300 yards, and the Mavic becomes invisible. It just does, maybe 400 yards. But I really wanted to go to the top of Mineral Springs Mountain. I live on Mineral Springs Mountain. I live on the bottom end of it, kind of what I call the poor end. And then the upper end of it, I wanted to and get that view. I'd honestly always wanted to see from the very top of Mineral Springs Mountain what it looks like, because when you walk up there, when you ride up there, the houses obstruct the views, and you can see that you got the beautiful view of Table Rock, you got a beautiful view of Grandfather, you got a beautiful view of Mount Mitchell and all the things, and so I said, well, crap, I'm going to fly on up there. So it was about 3,500 feet, and that Mavic performed like a this was just awesome, man. It's like I'm looking on my phone. I'm seeing all those things I wanted to see. I'm seeing down into Morganton. I'm seeing Drexel. And I'm realizing, okay, yeah, I can't see that Mavic, but boy, it's flying like a dream. And so then I brought it home across my ridge the whole way. And yeah, that was breaking the law, I guess, because I'm supposed to keep it line of sight. That is, you're right. That is the hardest one because once in a while you want to take it to that place that you know you can go to, but
it's just one of those. It's just one of the regulations that that's out there from the FAA, and also if you do your your remote pilot certificate, it's one of the things you agree to, and it's something that you can actually do in your backyard. You can literally lose sight of it very quickly just for a minute, and that's always kind of a time where you panic for a second because again you don't want to lose the drone, but it is one of those regulations that they put in place, and it's tough. It absolutely is. There are ways though you can apply for a waiver. From some of the regulations do have a process for applying for a waiver, and line of sight is one of those, I believe, waivers that's out there available to you. There's a process for doing that, and it has to be submitted to the FAA with some different paperwork. But those are being, I think, granted for certain circumstances. Another one is flying at night. People are getting some waivers for flying at night, and some other things. I believe CNN got a waiver for flying over crowds within certain parameters. So the regulations are pretty tough, and there's a lot of talk about those regulations, and I'm sure they'll be tweaked probably who knows how many times going forward, but they're definitely tough, no question about it.
Yeah, I do have a question about now the commercial licensing. I know it seems like it's a little bit more restrictive because, and I may be completely wrong on this, I've not found anything showing that recreational use you can't fly at night as long as it's still line of sight. Because I can see the Mavic better at night with the lights that it has on it, but because I flew at dusk, and oh my gosh, man, the YouTube police will come after you. You got everybody just, oh, you shouldn't have done that, and then people responded saying that, hey, recreational use, as long as the lights, you can still see it. But I don't know. Is there a hard line in the sand drawn on that? I don't know. I haven't flown the Mavic completely at night, but I have flown, I think, 30 minutes before dusk? I think I was.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after is that's the regulation that I'm aware of. If there's anything beyond that, I'm not aware of it. But I do know they're granting some waivers for it, and that are happening. But that as far as I know, that's the regulation. Again, there could be something I'm not aware of, but that's another one of those that's tough. You see a lot of things going on out there. People are shooting fireworks and things like that, and it's tough. It is.
No doubt about that.
That may be, Michael. It might be more stringent in North Carolina too. It seems like when I signed, it's like there's something, Chris, when I registered my Mavic that I had to sign from North Carolina, or not sign, but digitally sign, and it seemed like that might have said something about not flying at night. It was something like 5-question thing. You have to promise you're not going to go over 400 feet. You're not going to fly at night. You're not going to fly over people. That kind. I had to agree to those 5 things before they give me my number, right? Or was that federal?
There is a process that's all done online, but that's pretty much just re-emphasizing the FAA regulations because it depends on who you ask. The FAA is going to say they have jurisdiction over all the airspace. I know states and even municipalities are trying to do certain things, and I talked to one legal person who had a lot of thoughts about that, but again, it's going to be all fall back, primarily to what's the FAA saying, and best of my knowledge that regulation's for all. Unless you get a certificate of authorization, COA, or which is a waiver from them. But again, that's a process that it's an online form. You fill out the form, and just recently to try to get my first waiver. So we'll see how that process goes.
Yeah.
And the one I went for was flying at night.
Chris, one more quick question. Well, I actually got 2. Question part 1 is, what do we need to Google if we do we need to Google if we want to start practicing learning this and get the test? Is it just Section 107? What do we do we Google commercial drone license? What do we Google? Then the second question.
Things are going to get you to lots of people willing to take your money.
Really?
And some of them are pretty expensive. And that's really the other thing too. That's kind of a drawback for people is some of the training is it's not cheap, and it does take quite a bit of time. So yeah, you can Google that, and you'll get just a wealth of information on it.
But was it FAA.gov or something where you went and found your study stuff?
FAA.gov, I guess that's probably the primary address, but just really a Google search for drone pilot license. That's kind of the common term. You'll literally just get pages and pages of links for it.
Okay.
But you do have to be careful of that. I felt so bad the other day. I had somebody asking if you had to register your drone. I'm like, yes, you do. And I just Googled it. It popped up, and it looked so official. It was like, it almost seemed like a government link. Register your drone here.
Right.
And they did, and they went through it, and they're like, "Be $24.99." And I'm like,
no, that's a scam.
It's like $10.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I went back into that site, and I saw it was a third-party site that is just advocating and taking your information. They're submitting it, certificate, but they're just a third party, and it was a ripoff. I felt absolutely terrible then, but
wow. That's a good point. There's scams everywhere, so that's a great caveat that you don't want to just accept anything you're finding. But there's some good companies out there as well, and